More than 1,000 suspected gang members arrested in a massive nationwide ICE sweep, the 6-week raid under the Trump administration, the biggest of its kind to date.
New exclusive video of an alleged MS-13 gang member taken off the streets.
Hey man, pop out the car.
It's the exclusive video
showing a possible terrorist organization member caution.
Their mantra, mata, viola, controla. It translates to kill, rape, control.
What if the people sworn to protect your city were actually the ones selling it to the cartels? We aren't talking about a back alley deal. We're talking about a seated governor, a multi-billion-dollar drug pipeline, and a shadow machine so powerful it turned an American state house into a cartel headquarters. The image you've probably seen on the news is always the same. Tattoos, machetes, and alleyway violence. They call them MS-13. But what if I told you that the street soldiers are just the front door? Behind that door sits an engine with a name whispered in surveillance rooms like a prayer you don't want answered. The Santissima Vibora Cartel. Before we dive into the terrifying details of Operation Black Meridian, the largest multi-city crackdown in history, do me a huge favor. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. We're uncovering the stories the mainstream media often skims over, and you won't want to miss what's coming next. It started at 5 a.m. across 4 different time zones. While most of the country was still sleeping, federal teams were moving in 12 major cities. This wasn't a strike on a single gang, it was a synchronized hit on an entire machine. The preliminary numbers coming out of this massive ICE and FBI sweep are, frankly, brutal. We're talking about 2,431 arrests tied to MS-13 linked crews and facilitators. Agents issued over 1,000 federal holds and recovered 417 firearms. But it's the narcotics that tell the real story. They seized enough poison to kill entire neighborhoods for a year, 1.8 tons of methamphetamine, 612 kilos of cocaine, 94 kilos of heroin, and, most disturbingly, 2.1 million fentanyl pills. These weren't just loose pills. They were sealed in plastic, looking almost like candy. Candy for the dead. Now, here is the claim that made every reporter in the room stop typing. Officials are calling this the largest multi-agency crackdown ever aimed at a single pipeline. Why? Because MS-13 wasn't the top of the pyramid anymore. They were just the muscle. The real architect was the Santissima Vibora Cartel, ruthless, disciplined, and incredibly patient. Their goal wasn't just to sell drugs, it was to turn American cities into distribution hubs and American institutions into shields. You see, if you're staring at the kid with the tattoos on the corner, you aren't looking at the person in the office. And in this case, the office wasn't some dark back room. It was a state house. Enter Governor Adrian Kessler. To the public, he was a rising political star, a man who preached law and order into the daylight. But after midnight, he was signing the real orders. This wasn't just common corruption, it was command-level collusion. The operation to take him down was codenamed Operation Black Meridian. They chose that name because they weren't just chasing criminals, they were chasing a line on a map that had been moved by grease and greed. You have to wonder, how does a system get this broken? Well, let's look at how it began. 4:32 a.m. in Port Reyes. The city had that unnatural quiet that happens right before violence breaks out. Fog sliding between streetlights, neon reflecting off wet pavement. Suddenly, the silence is shattered. Black SUVs with no headlights idle on an industrial block. Inside, a steel layer of FBI, DEA, ICE, and SWAT. If you're finding this breakdown eye-opening so far, please hit that like button. It really helps the algorithm show this investigative content to more people. The targets weren't random. They hit a massage studio, a 24-hour bar, and a warehouse listed as a produce distributor. When the doors came down like thunder, the air turned sharp and metallic. In one warehouse, agents found the usual: bricks of cocaine wrapped in rubber bands. But then they found the room that changed everything. Hidden behind pallets of mangoes was a steel door with a biometric lock. This isn't something a street gang installs. This is what you install when you think the police will never come. Inside were rows of pill presses and industrial-sized drums of chemicals. But on the second shelf, the lead agent found something that made him stop breathing. Encrypted hard drives, each labeled with a circle split by a line, the meridian symbol. This wasn't just happening in one city. At that exact same second, 4:32 a.m., the hammer dropped in Westbridge, New York, Harrogate, Illinois, Mesa, Arizona, and Red Bluff, Texas. In Harrogate, agents breached a basement they thought was a casino. Instead, they found rows of scared, silent women sitting shoulder to shoulder, human trafficking, a stash house disguised as a laundromat. The total value of the seizures was staggering, $86 million in cash and crypto keys. But the real nightmare started when they cracked the encryption on those drives. The encryption wasn't gang grade, it was government grade. And inside that hidden room in Port Reyes, they found a state logistics compliance stamp from the Department of Infrastructure.
Now, police tell me the suspect could either be deported or prosecuted here in the U.S., with more details to come.
A seal that should never be in a drug lab unless someone in the government put it there. By 10:18 a.m., the FBI's Cyber Forensics Unit in San Morel was working the metadata. This wasn't a movie hack. It was a slow, grueling war of patterns and keys. When the wall finally cracked, they didn't just find a list of dealers. They found a logistics blueprint, routes, nodes, and something called the Horizon Youth Renewal Foundation, a sham charity used to launder millions. Money was moving like blood through a body, invisible but vital. And every major shipment, every maintenance closure at a way station that allowed cartel trucks to pass through uninspected had the same digital signature. It was an executive authorization key tied to Governor Adrian Kessler. He wasn't being bribed to look away. He was steering the ship. This was engineered treason. MS-13 crews were guarding the infrastructure, acting as the street-level muscle for a state-level plan. They were turning highways and rail hubs into a secure drug corridor. They even had a Phase 2 file, a schedule to lock this system in for decades. By 3:41 a.m. the following day, the next phase began: eradication. Deputy Director Ella Maher coordinated 1,200 federal agents and 48 SWAT teams. They even had U.S. Navy assets offshore to close the maritime gap. No escape routes.
You come out here real quick. Any weapons on you, anything?
No,
Pistoles?
no,
Okay.
not
Can I pat you down real quick? I'll check your waistband.
In the rich hills of Port Reyes, they breached a mansion with a private gate. It was a drug fortress built to look like success. In Red Bluff, they found a freight tunnel under a drainage canal, wide enough for rails and carts to move tons of product under the border. The arrests didn't stop at the border. They reached into the offices of power. Mayor Lucinda Crowe of Port Reyes was escorted out of her townhouse in handcuffs. Deputy Chief Marcus Vale was arrested in a parking garage. And then the big one, 11:03 a.m. at the state capitol. Governor Kessler was in his private suite when the agents walked in. No shouting, just the sound of professional shoes on a polished floor. His response? This is a mistake. But the charges were read anyway. Conspiracy, racketeering, and facilitation of narcotics trafficking. The cuffs went on. In 6 hours, the underworld took more damage than it had in 6 years. But here's the most chilling part. After the arrests, investigators started correlating data. They found out why so many previous raids had failed. It's because 73 local officers, 19 county deputies, and even 2 judges, Judge Holston Rohr and Judge Mir Assange, were on the payroll. One honest sergeant, Dana Hall, put it best during her interview. I was chasing ghosts because the ghosts were wearing our uniforms. It turns out there was a parallel enforcement force. Half the police were trying to protect the public, while the other half were acting as a second security team for the cartel. The Santissima Vibora cartel didn't just want a pipeline, they wanted a headquarters that could reshape the narcotics flow for the entire continent. They used human suffering as moving noise. They would pack people into a van to cross the border as a distraction, so a truck full of fentanyl could slide through behind it. They had a permanence plan to replace honest oversight with loyal oversight. This wasn't a gang problem that got out of hand, it was a political system redesigned for a criminal future. So, it leaves us with one question. What stops this from happening anywhere else? Power doesn't always need violence. Sometimes it just needs paperwork and people willing to look away. The real cost isn't in these seizure photos, it's in the funerals, the families hollowed out by addiction, and the teenagers stolen from their bedrooms by fentanyl. We have to stay vigilant. If you found this report important, please share it. Let's get the conversation started in the comments. Do you think our current systems are doing enough to prevent this kind of high-level infiltration? Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.